much do you think, Matt, that the highest court will actually rule on the issue of insurrection? Of course, that's sort of the heart of the 14th Amendment case. But then on the other hand, also, they could also say, just like you said, that maybe it doesn't apply to a president, or maybe it wasn't an insurrection. It should be in Congress's hands. There's a lot of sort of different ways they could go with this, right?
Yeah, there is. And John Roberts' instincts as Chief Justice is to get as many members of the court on board as he possibly can. And so I would expect you will see them frame this mostly in the due process argument, which is that the Colorado case had this slapdash hearing, lasted 1 week. There was no ability to subpoena witnesses. There was no discovery. And so ultimately that the fundamental rights of President Trump were violated. And so if a state wants to do this, they're going to have to do it the hard way, which again, they're not going to, because only the federal government can bring, these federal crimes. Obviously Jack Smith decided not to, based on all the evidence he saw. And so I think you'll see most likely, if almost unanimous, if not unanimous, court determine that Donald Trump is eligible under the Constitution to run for president.
How important is the timing of this, that they said that they're going to hear it again? February 8th is the oral arguments. Super Tuesday is the 5th of March. And Colorado is in that Super Tuesday, that big chunk. That's the mega contest, of course, of the primary season with so many big states, and the pivotal time, too. Do you think, obviously, they will come back before that, but also mail-in ballots? There's a whole bunch of stuff that'll go out even before March 5th, right? So how does this work with the voting process?
Yeah, well, in Colorado, which this case originated, the Supreme Court said, if the Supreme Court of the United States takes it up, then the ballots need to be printed, I think, on around right now in order to go out for Super Tuesday. And so you'll see Donald Trump's name most likely in Colorado either way. But I think everyone knows that's of good will and is smart and is not a complete hyper-partisan left-wing Trump hater, that this case is going to be overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. And so what Colorado did was mostly virtue signaling and suggesting how they personally feel instead of actually having any legal impact on this race.
Matt, I want to get your reaction also to President Biden's speech last night. I've covered a lot of them. I've covered a lot of presidents. It, to me, was the most unpresidential speech and very nasty. I almost call it Orwellian because he was saying that he's going to save democracy from President Trump and his words. How do you make that when you hear somebody who is the sitting president of the United States who claims to be above the fray? Remember, that's been his mantra, that he's the unifier in chief, saying he is the one to save democracy, when he seems like he's been smiling like the Cheshire Cat, and every other word out of his mouth last night was insurrection, insurrection, almost teeing it up, if you will, that this was, quote, an insurrection, to use that by the Supreme Court. You see where I'm going? It's an interesting juxtaposition.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I mean, it's hard for me to watch not only the President of the United States, but, the way that the Department of Justice has been weaponized. And I'll point to two examples just in the last couple of days where the U.S. attorney in D.C. Had a press conference where all he talked about was the January 6th defendants, and especially those that haven't been arrested or identified yet. And I saw today where they arrested 3 more people connected with January 6th on the anniversary, just to use the Department of Justice as a political weapon against Donald Trump. And again, they must have polling that suggests that this moves people in a certain way. But, I think where I am in Ankeny, Iowa, my hometown, and as I talk to my fellow citizens here and around this country, obviously the inflation issues, the economy, jobs, the issues of the American worker and the American family are front and center. And so Joe Biden needs to get to work if he wants to even have a chance of reelection on those issues, instead of worrying about this nonsense and trying to drudge up, January 6th, hoping that that's the magic bullet for them to succeed.
Yeah, it seems like now the new strategy, like you said, is January 6th, when most Americans are not talking about January 6th.